Hi everyone, I am Paulie, your favorite car guy, and today I'm going to be replacing the forward bank O2 sensor on this 2004 Subaru Impreza with its 2.5-liter non-turbocharged engine. Now, when it comes to oxygen sensors, I like to go to the dealer to try to get that sensor if possible. Now, that's often predicated upon cost. In this case, this sensor costs the same as an aftermarket sensor. So after you get your sensor, make sure you check the electrical connection and that it's going to be the same connector and that the length of the wire is the same in order to make sure you do have the proper sensor for this job. Now, as it turns out, this sensor is shrouded by the inboard CV joint, so removal of the CV axle is necessary. The nice thing about the RS, they have these little center caps that cover the axle nut. So with the car still on the ground, you can take that center cap off, use a chisel to knock back the peen on the nut, and then you can break that nut loose and pull it off there. You can use a metric socket for this. I think it's a 34 millimeter. I'm using an 1/16 inch socket because it fits a wider variety of axle nuts. So then you're going to jack the car up in the air and take the wheel off, and then you're going to go to this pinch bolt here. The pinch bolt is what holds the lower ball joint in. You're going to need to separate the lower control arm from the knuckle in order to get the outboard CV axle out of the spindle. So just be careful with that. They have a tendency to break, so be careful removing it. Also, to remove the lower ball joint, it's just held in by the jaws of the spindle. You may need to use a chisel to spread those apart in order to get the lower ball joint free. I just use a pry bar to come in here and knock the lower control arm out of the spindle there. They can be a little rusty and difficult to work with. If it's really stubborn, you can check out my video on ball joint replacement on a stubborn ball joint, and I show you the process to get that out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove here the outer joint from the spindle, and then we're going to go to the inboard joint. This is a shot from up above with, from the hood up, and I'm just going to use a pry bar here and wiggle that between the joint and the case of the transmission, which is aluminum, by the way, so be careful to pop that free. There is a removal tool, but it's pretty difficult to work with. What you're doing is you're popping the axle past a snap ring that's on the snub there. So it takes a bit of a jerk to get that to pop free. And then you can just reach in, grab it, pull it out of there. You may have some oil leakage, and you might want to put a drain pan underneath it or have a rag ready. Or it sits right over the exhaust, so it's not a bad idea even to wrap it with a freezer bag so that if oil does come out, it doesn't spill onto the exhaust and inside the heat shields there and make a mess. Even with the differential filled here, or excuse me, the transmission filled there, that's like the forward differential is what that really is. I didn't have any problems with it leaking. So here is the shot from up above, again with the axle removed. Here you can see the O2 sensor is clearly exposed. And to the right in the flashlight you can see the gray electrical connection with the release tab facing you. So you're going to want to disconnect that and check your connection right away. So if it's correct, then you're going to go to the O2 sensor there. And I think I used like a standard open-end wrench. It was like a 15/16 or something like that. And rolled it out of there and then rolled the new one in. Now the new one does come with anti-seize on the threads. So from the factory, it really is prepped and ready to go. There's a little pinch wire as it routes up to the connection that you will put that back so that it holds the loom out of the way. And that's really all there is to it. It's pretty straightforward. And at that point, then everything from here is just reverse procedure. You're going to go ahead, put your axle back in. If you haven't really done a lot of these, what you want to do is you have to slam it in past that snap ring that I talked about earlier that's on the edge of the snub of the axle. And so here I'm trying to slam that in. Really, the best thing you can do, and you're going to see it kind of go in the rest of the way right here, there it goes, is to set your axle up so it's on a straight as possible, as least amount of angle, and that'll give you the most success. Here you can see up above shot again with the axle installed. You can see there's no shiny part between the transmission's differential and the inboard joint. So it's home free. And again, this is just reverse procedure. The next thing I did was I put the outboard joint into the steering knuckle, and then I used my pry bar to pull down on the control arm and swinging the knuckle over and allow the lower ball joint to fit up into the steering knuckle again. And then I put my pinch bolt in. You torque it down to 34 foot-pounds, and you can spin the nut on, and when you're done, you set the car down on the tire and torque it down to the proper specifications. And the only other thing you need to do at that point is take the car to an AutoZone or something like that. Have them clear the codes that are in the computer so that everything is right to go. If the check engine light came back again, you would have a fresh new code and you would know it was accurate. So that's it. That's really all there is to it. I hope that's helpful to you. And again, I am Paulie the Car Guy. Thanks for watching.